All right, so politics now. As usual, Bruce Hawker joins me in the studio, political strategist. Morning, Bruce.
Cool.
And also joining us today, Peter Reith, former Liberal Cabinet Minister. Peter, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And
morning,
thank you both very much for your time this morning too. Let's start with Maxine McKew, or as I call it, Death by a Thousand Cuts. The book is launched on the 1st of November, but it's been serialised in a way that I'm sure Kevin Rudd hopes destroys Julia Gillard. Let me come to you first of all, Peter. How damaging is this?
Not too much. I mean, look, let's face it, the Australian public don't have a very high view of politicians. So to hear one who's been disloyal and has knifed her boss, which is what Julia did to Kevin, I'm not sure that it's going to create many waves. I mean, it's great for Maxine. Good on you, Maxine. Good book, obviously. But will it change the course of history? I don't think so.
And the question
it's a pity
is,
it doesn't, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if anyone's interested, it's that the claim is, in Kevin Rudd's own words, that Julia Gillard manufactured the leadership crisis in the first place. Do you rate that?
Well, look, it's possible. I mean, she denies it. I mean, look, whichever way you look at it, she knifed the guy. I mean, whether she decided to knife him on the last day or a month beforehand, I mean, there is some claim that she was going around showing people polling, but I'd have to say, who hasn't done that as a politician? So, yeah. You know, look, it's all happened. The public don't like it. The reason they don't like it is not because they knifed her. It's just that, the reality was that Kevin Rudd was put in by the Australian people and she's taken him out.
Yeah. So Kevin Rudd had a mandate.
They've been dudded.
Yeah, he had a mandate. No matter how bad he was perceived to be by some, he had a legitimate mandate. Julia Gillard didn't. Bruce, you know an awful lot about this. In fact, you were with Kevin when he found out he was knifed, when he was holding the handle of the knife.
I was, yeah. I was in his office, actually, when word came through that there were moves afoot. That was immediately after question time on that day.
Did you have any idea?
No, there was certainly a view that, you know, there were some real issues to be resolved within the caucus, and there were some people who were very unhappy. But you never got the sense that this thing was going to happen before the election. So it was a real blindsiding, and of course the impact it had on both him and I think the general public was reflected in that. It was, I sometimes say it was more like a political assassination than anything else, because he's there 1 minute and the next minute he's gone. The only difference is that, of course, he stayed on as a member of Parliament.
Do we know now, irrefutably, that actually Maxine McKew's book is actually Kevin Rudd's book?
No, this is all Maxine McKew's work, I'm sure.
She's done a lot of interviews. I mean, he wrote this particular report.
Well, he did a response to a question she asked him.
Quite lengthy and detailed and one-sided.
Well, well-researched book.
Does this make a difference, do you think? I mean, when people read this, if they can ever be bothered, and if they believe that Julia Gillard, whilst saying publicly, look, I was asked to do this, you know, it was the decision, you know, people had lost faith, if they believe the claim that she actually manufactured this crisis in the first place, turns out she has lied, you know, is it going to make a difference?
Look, I don't think there's going to be much difference as a result of this book. I guess the lingering issue is, you know, she said that she only made a call on this on the day, and there are some people who are going around saying, well, she was actually talking about it well before.
Well, if the book is correct, that is a lie.
So that goes to a question of truthfulness that she has to just bat away, I think. I don't think anything really helps Labor's cause at the moment by going back and revisiting this.
What we do know is Kevin Rudd will not go away.
Well, he's a very popular politician. He remains the most popular politician in the country, and no one can dispute that. All right.
Peter, let's talk the latest Newspoll out. While Kevin Rudd won't go away, I wonder if Tony Abbott will have to go away. I mean, these figures, two-party preferred, 50-50 now, level pegging between Labor and the Coalition. Surely the Coalition are going to be looking at that and thinking, maybe we need a new leader.
I don't think they will. I mean, look, the numbers have been running against Tony Abbott personally, and they've been moving against the Coalition in the last few months, and partly perhaps as a result of the carbon tax, perhaps as a result of some of the more controversial fights that we've had in the Parliament recently. But I mean, look, it's not an easy job being the leader of the opposition. Are they about to get rid of him? I don't think so, mate. I think, you know, even quite frankly, even just being on a par with the government for most opposition leaders is not a bad situation. So I just think, no, I think both sides will keep their leaders all the way through to the next election, regardless, basically.
But I mean, you'd have to say, certainly as I look at politics at the moment, Labor have had some real gaffes. I mean, the budget that was released just a few days ago, absolute bloomin' shambles. You wouldn't find 3 Australians, and Wayne Swan included as one of them, who really believes they're going to be in surplus, and yet still the coalition, and Tony Abbott in particular, can't capitalise on that.
Yeah, I must say, look, I honestly don't know why this is. I mean, you know, the point you've made is a good one. I mean, that mining tax, I mean,
what a joke.
Must be one of the greatest, you know, stuff-ups of all time, quite frankly. I mean, they said they're going to make a fairer Australia by giving out the proceeds of the mining tax, and they can't even raise a cent. I mean, it really is just a joke. If it wasn't so serious, it would be a joke.
So you see, you've just made more points in your answer to my question than Tony Abbott has. I think do they need a new leader, do you think, Bruce?
Look, I think Tony Abbott's in a fair bit of trouble. I hope they don't change the leader for obvious reasons, but his appeal always was based on being able to drive down Labor's vote. It didn't really matter too much if his personal support went down as long as he was driving Labor's vote down. That ceased to happen. And I think this is a dangerous time for Tony Abbott. If they change their leader, then of course a lot of the problems they've got about sexism, misogyny and so forth, and a very old-fashioned sort of view of the world go out the window, and they can start again.
And Labor would have to think of a new strategy, and as we know, they can barely run the country in the one they've got at the moment.
They've got to think ahead.
All right, Bruce Hawker, Peter Reith, thank you both very much for joining us. Fantastic.
Well, coming up a little later.